Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode here at the Flight 93 National Memorial for our continuing September 11th conquest of different stories. And
it's amazing, the stories.
It really is. And we're so grateful here with the Muscle Room Podcast to be here. Again, another shout out to the National Park Service for allowing us
2
to be
days here and just felt at home.
Yeah, seriously.
It really made.
Yeah, truly has felt at home. This is my first time here.
Yeah.
Hopefully not my last. Hopefully I'll be able to come back many times. But this is my first time being here, and we said this in previous episodes. I didn't know what it was going to be like, coming here. Yeah. It's very different than what we've experienced in New York City. Very different than what we've experienced at the Pentagon. This one is. Surreal. It feels very surreal, and I think it's just because we're surrounded by nature.
And it is a site that's kind of out of the way.
Yeah.
But it's a steady stream of people that are visiting the site continuously. I mean, it's just steady streams of people watching them all day.
It's a lot busier than I thought it was going to be. Yeah. So anyway, let's get into it.
Let's get going.
Yeah. So we are joined here today by Jim Broderick, retired Pennsylvania State Police.
Correct.
And you are a current resource officer.
I am.
So still wearing the badge and protecting the kids?
Wearing the badge. I work at Salisbury Oak Lick School District full-time through the school year, and then Somerset County Sheriff's Department during the summertime.
Wow. So how many years have you been working as a cop?
This will be 30.
30 years.
25 with state police, 5 with the Sheriff's Department, and then when I start back here in another 2.5 weeks, it'll be my 5th year at the school.
You plan on hanging it up anytime soon? What does the wife say?
She has 4 more years at the same school.
Okay.
So she can retire, so I can see 4 more years.
All right, so at least 4 more years to go.
Yeah,
good for you, man.
more.
34 years you'll have in law enforcement.
Correct.
Wow. But we're going to really focus on your time with the state police and obviously September 11th. But before we get into that, talk about yourself. Talk about your career and how you got into law enforcement.
I went to college out of high school for criminology at Indiana University of PA. Graduated there, processed for Maryland and Pennsylvania at the same time. And
you always wanted to be a police officer?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a trooper.
Yeah.
And I had a great uncle that was a trooper from Pennsylvania. So I was like, okay, whichever one. And we're so close to Maryland here.
Yeah.
It was no brainer. Just go,
And how dare you call him a police officer? It's a trooper.
That's the same thing.
Right? There's always that funny, little
New
jam.
Jersey troopers are punching
city
in your face
cops and troopers and county cops always, sheriffs always.
Just kidding, New Jersey troopers. I know you wouldn't punch me.
But yeah, I just first one that called, I went with Pennsylvania. I was, I think, 14, 15 weeks into Pennsylvania's academy, and Maryland called me up and said, hey, or sent me, actually back then they send you letters,
right,
saying you are appointed just as when you're going. I was this far away. I'm over halfway through my Pennsylvania academy. I'm not doing the Maryland. I said, call them back.
Yeah.
I told her we were just married, and I said, call them back, tell them I'm in Pennsylvania, to go ahead and cancel it. So that's what she did.
Yeah. What year was that?
1996.
Okay. So you graduated in 1996, and where was your first? I don't know what to call it, but like working area.
First barracks was,
yes.
our first barracks was Greene County, southwest corner of Pennsylvania. I was in Waynesburg. So I did 3 years there before I transferred back to Somerset. Came back to Somerset 3 years later and been here ever since.
So around 98, 99, you came back here to Somerset?
Yeah, 99.
99, okay.
Yeah.
So you're working in Somerset 99, 2000, 2001. Give our viewers like a little description of what Somerset County is like.
Somerset County is very rural. Blue collar, people work, coal mines, construction. Now it seems to be people are traveling to go to work, tech jobs, working from home, things like that.
Tell you what, it's strikingly beautiful out here.
It is.
It really is.
It's very nice.
And I've seen a lot of new hotels seem to be popping up and new restaurants. And, again, this is my first time here, but you could just tell that there's a lot of newer buildings.
Yes.
And I wasn't sure if it was because of the memorial or is it because of just people transversing through?
Well, you had that. You have the memorial here. Then we had the 9 for 9 miners incident. So that was right outside of Somerset. So, I mean, it is tourism's very big here.
Yeah.
Skiing in the wintertime.
I never even thought about that.
Hidden Valley, Seven Springs, Laurel Hill. So.
Okay, so Do we know the population of Somerset? I don't think we even talked about that.
Roughly about 76,000 people.
Okay.
Give or take.
How about 24 years ago before this happened? Was it the same?
Well, that's a good question. I can't answer that. I don't remember what it was then.
I only ask good questions.
Yeah. I would say it's somewhere near there.
Yeah.
Because we do have 2 prisons in Somerset County.
Okay.
State prisons. So.
Yeah. All right. So rural, nonetheless, right?
Very rural.
How many troopers are typically working on any given day?
If you go to the county barracks, back when I worked in the county barracks, there was 3 on patrol, usually 2 to 3 crime guys in the daylight shift, 1 in the afternoon shift, and then one guy would work weekends.
Yeah.
He would kind of catch an evening.
Right. So not many.
No.
And Shanksville doesn't have their own police department. You guys
Shanksville does not.
are 911, right?
Yes.
You're the responding
Yes.
officers. Okay. So let's get into the morning of September 11th. Tell us about how your day started.
Day started. I was a day shift that day. I can't remember if I was 6 to 2 or 7 to 3. Come in. We had roll call. Basically went out. I was assigned to center zones, which is between 30 and 31. This is 31 interstate up here, or I'm sorry, state route, and 31 over here south of us. So that was our center zones throughout the entire county. So that's where I was sent. I was out driving around in my patrol car, just doing traffic, and I just happened to be listening to the radio. It was out of Pittsburgh. I believe it was the Howard Stern show. It was in New York.
It's actually a very famous clip of the Howard Stern show of him talking about what was happening in New York City.
What was happening. So I was listening, and I was close to a cousin's house. So I thought, well, I might as well stop in and see if he sees this. Well, I stopped in. He had the Today Show on. So I was watching this. I saw the first plane hit, and was just watching that. And I was there maybe 10 minutes, and his son called from New Jersey. He worked at the refinery down there. I believe it was Exxon at the time. He worked there, and they were sending their fire crews to New York to assist. So I talked to him a little bit on the phone. They had him on speaker, and we talked a little bit. And about that time, my portable radio went off. We had cell phones, but they weren't like what we have now. You flipped it up and you pulled the antenna out. And we had very, very little coverage in Somerset County, so couldn't call anybody, couldn't do anything like that. So they called us on the radio and said, hey, I need you to report back to station right away. So I didn't know what was going on. I kind of figured it was something to do with what was going on in New York. So drove back to the station, and they called us in, and we were watching it on TV. That's what they wanted us back for.
Right. So at that moment, the plane here, Shanksville has
not hit the ground or anything at that point. So there was actually a lieutenant on station at that time. They were doing a line inspection. Sergeant Madigan was back with them in the crime room. We walked back there and we're watching it on. It was a big screen then. I think it might have been 40 inches.
Yeah, that was a big screen back then.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. So we're watching this unfold, and then the second plane hit. So we knew it was not just.
It wasn't an accident.
It was not an accident.
Right.
So we're just discussing this, talking about it. Couldn't believe that this was actually happening. And then I hear the 911 phone rings. It was completely different than the state police phone. It was actually a pickup. It rang different than our state police phones.
Right.
And it was county transferring a call in from somewhere in Ohio. And it was the people on the plane. And they were saying that they were flying over a large body of water, and they had a plan to take the plane back. And so they immediately they dispatched me, being in the center county, sent me toward Indian Lake, which is right over here. And then Joe Grove, he went north toward, we have a couple lakes up there. He hit Somerset Lake, and then there was one out toward Jennerstown. He was going over that way, I believe, or was supposed to. And then Patrick Stewart, he was another trooper. He went south. He was south zones that day, so he was headed toward Mount Davis Lake. And they called me. I was probably, I don't know, a couple minutes out of station. I wasn't even out on 281 yet, and they said the plane was down.
So at this point, you guys get essentially dispatched, right? So all three of you guys are going in different directions just to find the plane still flying.
Still flying.
Right?
To
Just
see
so
if
you
we
get
could see-
eyes on it.
You're correct.
Right, okay.
See if we're getting eyes on this. They said they were flying over a large body of water. They're taking the plane back. And that's all we basically knew at that time.
Right.
So I'm flying out through Freeden's lights and siren. You got to remember, we didn't have computers in the car then. All we had was one radio.
You're just like sticking your head out the window, looking to see if you can see
and just
something flying above.
Just looking.
Yeah.
Because it was clear day.
Right.
It was
It's like today, right?
Yeah,
Beautiful
very
day like today.
clear. You could see almost everything. It wasn't hazy at all. Blue sky. So I figured, okay, well, I'll get up on 31, see if I can see anything. And like I said, I got the calls. The plane went down. So
Now you can't. You couldn't see the smoke or anything from where you're at.
No.
You're that far out still, or
yeah, I was at that far. I was basically over here on 31, and there used to be a pull off up here where the coal trucks would pull off and check their brakes and do other things. It was just a dirt pull off. I pulled in there. I'm looking down, and they're saying it went down in a field in between 31 and Shanksville. So I'm like, okay, I'll go up there and look, thinking I would see some type of smoke, fire, or something. I couldn't really see anything at first, and then I thought I saw a faint, like, white cloud. I don't know how else to describe it. So I knew I was close. So I took the next right, went down the road, and I saw all these people standing out in their front yard. I asked them, hey, did you happen to hear anything, see anything? And these people told me, yeah, something just went down. Something big just went down behind our house over in what used to be a strip job. I'm like, okay. So I went down the road, and that's when I saw,
Came
came around the corner, I saw a massive hole in the ground.
All hell broke loose.
Yeah, a massive hole. As I'm driving through the field, I drove my patrol car right through the field, there was a makeshift road. It was a dirt road that went back to what's called Rulock at the time. They were a scrap metal business, and drove past the road, went down into the field, figure you got to get there. Now I'm thinking, okay, am I going to know a good guy from a bad guy when you roll up on this? Because you knew that it was a hijacked plane.
Yeah.
I knew that at this time. So I'm thinking, how am I, if there are survivors, am I going to know a good guy from a bad guy? We didn't have any clue what was going on then. No one said anything. They just said it was hijacked.
Now, other than the people that you said, hey, did you see anything? You get to the scene. You're it, right? You're the first person. You're the first responder out of everybody.
Yes. There were some people that were working at Rulock. Some of them were standing on the hill, and then I had three people. Once I pulled my car up, I pulled it way too close. I pulled right up to the hole. I mean, I got out, and the hole was from me to you.
Wow.
So what's that, 4 feet?
Yeah.
I was right there, thinking, okay, at least I can. Is this where it bounced? Or I had been to a small plane crash before, and they pretty much stayed together. The fuselage stayed together. This one, it was down in the hole, and it just burst.
Yeah.
It was gone.
Now, when you pull up, did you transmit anything over the radio? Did you say, hey, I found it? Or
I did. I said, I'm on scene. I found it. I don't believe there's any way anybody could have survived this type of devastation.
Mm-hmm. You put that out over the air?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know my exact words.
Yeah.
Sure. But I said, I don't believe there's any way anybody could survive this.
Right.
So put out, but I did say that I was going to go out and take a look around. I'll be back, because sometimes the portables worked, sometimes they didn't.
Right.
In Somerset County, we didn't have as many cell phone towers then, and our cell phones didn't work out here. I tried several times that day to get back to station, and like I said, it was just something you had in your pocket. You pulled up the antenna and tried to talk, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
So what do you do? So I used the portable as best I could, but you had to be semi-close to the car so it would transmit.
Yeah, yeah. So as you're walking around, what are you seeing?
Well, prior to me getting out of the car, I let them know that I'm getting out. I have three people that are coming down to me that's saying they're witnessed. They're at the passenger side window. I get them in the car, said, listen, I got to go look for survivors. Can you just hang tight? I'll come back for you. I go to get out. I look down, and there's human remains, some type of joint, whether it was elbow, knee, something like that, charred flesh. And I knew then that I pulled the car way too close.
Yeah.
So I immediately got back in the car, backed it up, and then I told them, just sit tight. I got to go look. And I left and went down. Like I said, everything that you could imagine was on fire. The grass was on fire. The trees were on fire. There was a cabin down in the woods. The roof was on fire there. The biggest part of the plane that I saw, it looked to me like a portion of the engine, because I could see the fins from the inside of the jet engine, and it was probably 100 yards over on top of this little knoll, and it was on fire. It was just, everything was just chaos.
Other than the fire, can you hear anything? It's just quiet.
It was weird. You heard the popping sounds. I could hear sirens rolling in. Shanksville Fire Department's coming in the opposite way. They're coming toward me on a road. So I did have them there that quick.
Yeah.
And their job was to extinguish the fire.
Right.
So that's what they started working on right away, and they did a very good job, of getting that done. But basically, I was worried about, survivors. So I'm out looking around the wreckage and what was.
Are you yelling out, hello, please, stay police?
Stay police,
Yeah.
And then I went into the woods and yelled that, and just dead silence. All you could hear was the crackling of the fire. The trees were on fire, like I said, things like that. I didn't really hear any sounds of survival, or even a human being for that matter.
Right.
So then I realized, this is mass destruction. There's nothing. This terrorist attacked, and the plane, there was no survivors. Go back to my car. And this might have taken, it seemed like forever, but it was probably 10, 15 minutes. But it seemed like forever. And probably especially for the people who were in the back of my car.
Oh, yeah.
It was hot out that day. Got back to the car, called in. I remember taking their names, addresses, phone numbers. I couldn't tell you who they were now.
Yeah.
24 years later, it's tough. And then we gave all our stuff up, our notebooks up that day. So
how were they in the back of the car though when you were talking to them? Were they hysterical? Were they calm? Were they?
They were. I mean, they were fairly calm at that time. I mean, I said somebody's going to be in touch with you.
Yeah.
There's no doubt, and I'm sure that they did get interviewed later, because, like I said, first thing to do when you get to the scene, secure the scene.
Yep.
Okay. Make sure everybody's safe. And if there are survivors, you deal with them. And then after, you worry about scene protection. Yeah. And that's what I was worried about, because we had people, like I said, fire departments pulling up from all over the county. Everyone was dispatched here. So I had, luckily then, the two Trooper Stewart showed up, Trooper Grove, he showed up. And then Sergeant Tony DeLuca from the Turnpike Station, he showed up, took over command until Sergeant Madigan and I believe it was Lieutenant Weaver came out to the scene, and then he was the highest ranking officer at the time. So he took command at that time. So he sent the three of us, Trooper Grove, Trooper Stewart, and I. He's like, listen, go into the woods, go back as far as you can, see if you can find anything, any survivors. And he said, and we assembled a group of fire department members and other people. We're like, listen, we're looking for survivors. If you can come with, now that the fires, it wasn't totally out, but it was down to where Shanksville and some of these small departments could handle it, and they got it taken care of really good. So we went back into the woods, and I just remember, finding different human parts. I found a tennis shoe with a foot in. I was back walking around. There was a trail back through the woods, and I found Flight Attendant Sandra Bradshaw's Flight Attendant book. I remember opening it up, and there was a picture of her and her family and all the flights that she's taken. That was her work schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I remember taking that back because I felt that was very important. I wanted to get that back to her family, make sure that she got that. So we, at that point, decided we were going to start collecting some of this before. It got a little windy. It was blowing away. So we grabbed things and we put them on the back of one of the Shanksville, I believe it was Shanksville's truck, and start collecting some evidence there before it was destroyed or blown away.
And at what point did the cavalry start rolling in from the rest of the state police?
It was probably 2 hours. Till we got everybody from the station out, even guys that were off duty that day, they'd call in, they knew, and that's the first thing they did, call everybody out from the station. So we had everybody out here from Somerset Station, and then they started to arrive from Greensburg, Evansburg, Kiski, and other stations that were around. So I'm saying 2 to 4 hours till we actually had some real help to where we could secure everything. And I remember Sergeant Madigan or Lieutenant Weaver, I'm not sure which, assigned me. Fayette County had a trailer at the time. It was a utility trailer, but they used it as a command staff for major incidents. And they had brought that up for us. And I was assigned to talk to anybody that needed to talk to the state police. That was me. And then I had a runner that would go find our command staff and say, this is who's on the line. I remember talking to the governor, the commissioner at the time, Paul Ivanko, Governor Ridge, and then a little bit later, the FBI called, and we had to talk. We spoke with them. They are asking me, what do you see? What do you need? And so I was just like the go-between for them.
Right. And now let's talk about, once the cavalry does arrive and you start getting brass, much higher rank than you are. They start taking obviously over the scene.
Yep.
You guys are securing the scene. What happens next? Like over the next few hours, days, what's going on?
Days, basically the first day was securing the scene. We wanted to make sure we didn't lose any evidence, making sure that was done. And we just set the perimeter. The perimeter went way down through the woods. So once those guys started to get here that evening, they're like, okay, we're going to space them out 50 yards apart, 2 guys per station, and then they just went around this whole place. And it used to be a field that went the whole way around. So you had, I don't know how many guys actually came here. I had no idea the number, but we had 2 shifts, round the clock, and they were assigned that, and that's where they went. The Somerset guys, we were assigned because we were from the county.
Right.
We knew the area. They had us doing different tasks, anything from making sure that they had the supplies that they needed to make it through the day or the evening. And then after about the 3rd day, they were finding human remains pretty often.
Right.
So they decided we're going to have to do a temporary morgue somewhere. And Wally Miller was the coroner at the time. So then we would transport, parts back to the morgue, which was set up at the National Guard Armory back in Freedom's. And that's where the FBI set up, and they did a lot of their recovery.
And how were they finding the human remains?
What they did is at the hole, they had the FBI, once they showed up, I believe it was that late that evening, is they brought a piece of equipment in, and they would somehow, I don't know if they scooped it out with the backhoe or if they did it with 5-gallon buckets. They would fill a 5-gallon bucket. They would put it on these screens, and they would 2 guys would shift it back and forth until they found, that was at the hole.
Yeah.
And they would sift it back and forth till they found something. And then they would transport it.
And then obviously you're also finding human remains just randomly in the woods and the trees. And
yep. They were finding body parts all around the scene.
Right. So after this occurs, we had spoken about this earlier, the rehab part that comes in and the logistics of essentially a massive crime scene over the span of 10 plus days.
Right.
And you were saying that, guys were essentially fending for themselves the first few days.
First 2 days, we just didn't know. I mean, and I'm sure that the command staff didn't know what we were going to need when we were out there. Salvation Army and Red Cross, they came in and they helped out as best they could, but they were obviously stretched thin. So, with what was going on with Pentagon, New York, they were there. But they did supply food to us when we were out at the morgue. But that first few days when we were here, we were basically on our own. Now the community really kicked in. They brought us any water. I mean, the fire departments got water, donations of food, and they would bring it out to us, because we couldn't go anywhere.
Right.
You're basically stuck here. So this is where you're at. This is what you're doing. And then the Somerset guys, we would transport that around to the different troops and make sure that they had.
Yeah, you were saying that even guys were setting fires and barrels to keep themselves warm at night.
Guys that worked the night shift, they went and they bought sleeping bags. They bought those canopies. Because at times it rained. Right. And you had to get out of the elements, and it was cold at night. September in Somerset County is. Yeah. It can get into the 40s.
Yeah, I think people need to realize that, the two other sites obviously are major metropolitan areas where you pretty much have anything you need at your disposal.
Yeah.
Out here, complete opposite.
No, I think Walmart sold out of tents from what I remember. There's guys saying those canopy tents, that you could stick that up. And they might have been 8x8 or 10x10 tent,
right.
Just had the canopy over you, and at least they had that.
Yeah, and how many days were you here working?
I worked here, I believe it was the first 4 days, and then I got assigned to go into the morgue. Some of the Somerset guys got assigned to go into the morgue, and we worked in there for 12-hour days. We just had to make sure that nobody come in unless they were allowed in. They had to have a pass. They had to have a badge of some sort.
And I want to talk about that in a second, though, but I want to bring up, prior to us going on, you had mentioned that on day 2 or 3, you actually got a chance to go into the helicopter and see the crash site. So let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah. After the first day when I communicated with our governor and our command staff in Harrisburg.
And you're actually doing the communication, not
I did.
Not
it
a
was
higher
a phone
rank
call. Because this was within 3 to 4 hours after this happened. So they want to know what's going on.
So now did somebody give you a phone and say, hey, the governor wants to speak to you? How did that work?
The phone would ring, yeah. And you had PCOs or police communications officers from Fayette County like, hey, they want to talk to somebody from state police.
Yeah.
So and then it went through me.
Wow. Were you at any point did you say, holy crap, I'm talking to the governor of the Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the commissioner.
Yeah.
I'm like, this doesn't happen every day.
Yeah.
They don't talk to,
Right. So what was that conversation like?
It was surreal. I mean, you're like, okay, you have to make quick decisions. You have to tell them what you see, they want to know, because they need eyes. They need to know what we need out here next. And I think they were looking toward the future too, what you need if we ever have anything like this again, what we would have to do to mobilize and get somewhere. So now we have the actual incident command portable, or their massive buses, or Vs.
Yeah. A lot's changed over the past 24 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that was just a couple years after we started getting those.
Right.
And
so does a helicopter land and you jump in, or how does this work?
I believe it was I can't remember if it was the end of the first, I think it was the end of the second day. The Governor Ridge came out. They flew out in the state police helicopter, landed on the hill. The colonel was with them, and they said they wanted to meet the 3 of us that responded to the scene first. So they came. We had to drive up. I remember driving up with Trooper Grove and Trooper Stewart, and we drove up and we're talking to them, and just, they were asking us personally, hey, how are you doing? I remember Governor Ridge, and this is the governor of the state of Pennsylvania, and I'm a 6-year trooper, just a boot. And they're basically saying, hey, if you need anything, here's my number. You call me personally. And I thought that was pretty big.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was pretty impressed by that.
And they said, hey, we're going up in the helicopter. You want to join us?
That I believe was the next day. They allowed the 3 of us to go up in the helicopter and look at the site. And that's because the helicopter was assigned here.
Right.
And they're like, hey, you should go up and look.
Yeah.
So we went up, flew over the scene, just you know.
Can you describe what you saw when you were up there?
You could actually see the outline of the plane where it went into the ground, the wingtips and where the fuselage created the big hole.
Right.
I mean, it was massive. And then the devastation, you could see the woods, how far it went back in. You could see it went in upside down like that, and probably all the fuel blew out, and that's what caught the woods on fire and burned all the grasses and things like that. And that's why you got that smell.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the state police was here for about 10, 12 days or so.
Yeah.
And then you said you ended up going to the morgue after about 4 days. Now, what was that like working there? Were you dealing with family at all?
They did bring some family in. That's where I met Miss Ken Nackey.
Mm-hmm.
I met him there because he identified his brothers. He had a patch on his shoulder. It was Superman patch.
Yes,
tattoo.
we learned all about that. One of the earlier episodes.
They found that and brought him in. He talked about that. Yeah.
Okay, so you're essentially providing security at the morgue.
Yes, because
was press trying to come in? And
they were. And they actually set up on the hill. There was a church over there across the hill from that, and they were just taking pictures all day long.
Yeah.
You know, because it was hot. They had to have the garage doors open, so they're zooming in on there with their lenses. And,
right.
You know, we're just trying to hey, have some respect.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Now, after all this is over, did state police offer you guys any type of help when it comes to stress management or any type of debrief afterwards of what you guys were seeing and saw?
I mean, at the time, I can't remember if we did or not. I don't remember being debriefed or anything like that. If we were, it was probably just hey, if you need something, call me.
Yeah.
It was something like that.
And then you just went right back into trooping.
Yep. Worked 10 days. I was off for a couple, back to work.
Wow.
But I was on midnights, and we'd always come out here because they had a temporary trailer down here.
Right.
Just to make sure nobody bothered it until they actually created this site.
Yeah.
So we would stop in and talk to the guys.
So you were out here, and you're coming out here, you're working it, then you go to the morgue, you work that. At what point do you just go, holy shit?
Yeah. Yeah, that was probably when you got some time off. Because you're in that mindset, you got to hold it together for everybody.
Yeah.
You got to hold it. You have a job to do.
Yeah.
And you have to do it. So it was probably on my days off. I had a daughter that was I think she was 2 at the time. My wife, I'd go home and take a shower, go to bed, be up, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, back to work. They let us take a car home, get your stuff, meet back here.
And how was the family life? Were they understanding of?
Oh, yeah. They were. Yeah. My wife was understanding. My daughter was young. She really didn't understand where I was.
Yeah.
Or why I wasn't there. So, that was kind of hard, her not, knowing what was going on.
Right.
But
let's talk about this photo behind us.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure we touch upon it. Tell us, for those of you that are watching, you could see that there's a pretty large photo behind us on the TV screen. For those that are just listening and not seeing what we have here, describe the photo and tell us what it is.
This is overlooking, there was a little hill then. It was overlooking the crash site. And somebody brought a few bales of hay in, put a flag up, and that was the temporary memorial. This was the start of the temporary memorial. By the end of the week, they had a fence up along this side, and they had family members brought things into, mementos and things for their family to remember them by.
And who's this gentleman?
That's me. That was me. I believe that was the third morning, and Trooper Grove, who was he was trying out for our records and identification unit, and had just got word that he got the job. So he's like, go stand over there and I'll take this picture.
Oh, this was set up. This was you were meant to be
there. He said, just
this
go over
was
there and
someone just
stand,
took a
look
photo
at
of
it.
you.
Go over, stand, look at it, and I'm going to snap a photo. So he went over, snapped a couple photos.
It's a great picture.
It is. Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it's very powerful. And you had said a pretty funny story when you retired.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
When I retired, when you retire from state police, you take all your gear, all the stuff that the state police issued you over the years, you take it up to headquarters. And I went in there, and I'm turning it over to the civilian. I believe his name was, I'm positive it was Eric. Can't remember his last name. But I'm turning this stuff in, and I happen to look back on the wall. There's this photo. It's blown up. It's in a picture frame. I said, hey, that's me. He said, really? I said, yeah. I said, boy, I'd love to get a copy of that. He pulled it off the wall and gave it to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was nice.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So I keep that in my office. That's the actual.
Yeah.
You guys.
Right. Yeah, that's an awesome story.
Yeah. So it was nice to get that back.
Yeah, and then obviously now over 24 years later, here we are at the actual true memorial, and again, it's beautiful. How often do you come here?
I bring the students here from Salisbury, the seniors here every year. I set it up through Adam Schaefer and Steve, and we bring them here. It's usually toward the end of September, beginning of October, whenever they get some free time, and we have some free time. And I bring the seniors over, and I give them the personal tour around the place, what I remember.
Yeah. And you had mentioned earlier before we went on that it hit you a few years ago that the first class that you had brought here.
First class I brought here, they weren't even alive when this happened.
Yeah. And now we're a few years later now. I mean, we're talking, yeah. So what's that like? What's like them not even knowing really much about 9/11?
Well, some of the kids, believe it or not, have never been here.
Right.
We've had, and you're talking 26 miles away, and they have never been here. And so at least, and they're 18. So that's hard for me to comprehend.
Yeah.
This is history.
Right.
And it's in your county. You should see it. You should experience it. To come out here and realize the sacrifice that these people made. I mean, you just can't understand it.
Are they receptive to that? Are they receptive to you?
I believe that they are. Some of them, some of them it's just a field trip.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that somewhere down the line it resonates with them. Hey, this was history.
Yeah.
Some of them don't get it that day, but when they go down and they walk up that walkway and you look at that rock and you realize, hey, that's where these heroes are resting. That tends to hit them. And then when they walk to the wall and see the names.
Have any of them told you that like they became first responders or troopers?
Yeah, I was involved with Camp Cadet for a while, and we do have some people that are graduates that became firefighters, or got into the business.
I would assume that those who became first responders when you took them here, probably it resonated in them.
Yeah, this year I have a senior that I believe he'd make an excellent state trooper. He wants to do it, so I'm looking forward to bringing him here.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Now, do they know this? Prior to you bringing them here, obviously, I'm sure they knew that you were a trooper and everything along those lines. But do they know the story, or do you tell them the story when you're here?
Some of them I've talked to. Like my first year down there, the history teachers wanted me to come in and speak to them on Flight 93, show them the things that I have, the newspapers at the time. My wife was very good at collecting all that because I didn't see it.
Yeah, well, you were a little busy.
Yeah. So she collected all that stuff for me, kept it in a book, in a binder, and then I bring it into the kids and show them this is what happened this day.
Do you find it therapeutic to yourself when you're talking to them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The more you talk about, the better it feels.
Yeah.
Because cops don't really talk well with others.
Part of the reason why we do this podcast.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
And now you had mentioned that you had rung the bell at some of the previous ceremonies. What's that like?
It was tough. I'll be honest with you. That was hard because there's a lot of family there. Mm-hmm. A lot of family comes back to that. So yeah, that was hard. I brought my daughter that time, and she was 11, I believe, 12. I think she would have been 12, and I remember bringing her over with me because my wife teaches at a different school than where my daughter went.
Right.
So I could get her out of school, and I could get one out, not two.
So you're standing there in front of about 1,000 people or so, if not more.
Yeah.
And you're ringing the bell at 10:03 a.m. or you're doing it for all 40 victims?
We did all 40.
All 40, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
And what we would do is vice versa. We had one of the township supervisors at the time. He rang one bell, I rang the other.
Right. Yeah.
They would announce the names. We'd ring the bell.
It's a very somber ceremony. It's a beautiful ceremony. I was very surprised to learn that it's actually not broadcasted for the most part on national television.
No.
It's broadcasted on local, and I think a lot on the East Coast, being that the East Coast was affected the most. I went to the first time a few years ago to the actual ceremony down in New York City, and when I was talking to people, they had told me that they had never even known of the ceremony and the reading of the names.
Yeah.
And I was shocked. I thought it was always broadcasted on national television. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some news agencies that will broadcast it on national, but for the most part, it's mostly a local story. Now, 24 years later, I'm sure maybe next year, being the 25th anniversary, I'm hoping it'll get the national news coverage that it deserves.
I hope so.
Yeah.
These people, they saved thousands of lives, tens of thousands of lives.
Yeah, literally heroes.
Yeah, and you don't hear about Flight 93 like you do the other two. And New York obviously takes, everybody pays attention to New York with the Twin Towers and everything. Pentagon, but here, I mean, we really don't hear about it.
No.
You don't.
No, we don't.
And it's so important that we do teach everybody and relive it. And we have police officers like yourself, troopers like yourself, who we're here and can spread that knowledge to the youngsters that have no idea.
Right. Yeah. Just recently, actually, this is probably as of a week ago. I don't know if you guys saw there's a video circulating online. There was a gentleman, I assume he was having a psychotic episode, and he was screaming on a flight.
Oh,
that he had a bomb and Allah Akbar and all this. They took him down right away. I mean, there was two huge dudes.
Yep.
I don't think people will hesitate anymore.
No,
I think it's done. Yeah.
But I think it's all because of Flight 93.
Yeah.
And again, those are adults, so they know what the adults did on Flight 93, and it was 40 individuals who worked as a team. Whether they were sitting in their seats, or they were the tip of the spear, and they were the ones that were doing the physical altercation with the terrorists. But 40 individuals worked as a team to take down.
And they all voted. That's what's amazing.
Part. Yeah.
It's amazing to me that you can vote because you knew the outcome.
Yeah.
You knew that the possible outcome of survivability was very low.
Right.
Yeah. But they still chose to fight back.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and we said earlier in an earlier podcast, it was the first counterattack that essentially Americans did on the war on terror.
Yeah.
And then just a few weeks later, in early October, we had boots on the ground in Afghanistan with the Green Beret and CIA assets.
Yeah.
And then it led to a multi-year war on terror in here, Afghanistan and Iraq. And we had just visited the field. What's it called? The field.
The war.
The post 9/11. See, what is it?
War on Terrorism Memorial.
Yeah, Patriot Park.
Patriot Park. And we saw 7,055 flags planted in the ground, and representing one flag for every soldier that was killed in the war on terror. And I think 2014, we pulled officially out of Afghanistan, or was it Iraq? Either way, it's and then I think it was Afghanistan, and then in Iraq later, a few years ago, we pulled out of, and we were talking, and we said it's not a matter of if we're going back, but probably a matter of when. Unfortunately, right? Hopefully, we never have another experience like this again. But I don't think we've given a shout out to all of our U.S. service members who've given their lives and still continue to give their lives overseas
and continue to join.
Join,
that's big.
Yeah.
I mean, to join the service, knowing what you might have to do.
That's what's great about this country. It's an all-volunteer army.
Yes.
And they raise their hand and go out there and do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Have you gone to the New York City Memorial?
I have not.
Highly recommend it.
Okay.
It's very different. Every memorial is the three sites are very different. Being that it's in a metropolitan area,
right?
There's no nature. It's New York City, right? The most nature you see is the rats running across the street.
Right.
But it's below the two pools that were the North and the South Tower. It's massive inside. It's beautiful. They did a really beautiful,
it's incredible.
Job. And if hundreds or thousands of artifacts are down there that you could see, and it takes hours and hours to go through everything.
Sure it would.
But when you go up top, and a lot of people don't get to see it, Liberty Park, which overlooks the World Trade Center complex, they have a monument that's tucked way in the back, and it is a horse, and on top of the horse, it's a Green Beret with an M4 slung over his shoulder. And the war in Afghanistan in early October was the first time that the U.S. Army had to use horses again in over 50 years during wartime. And it's a beautiful monument. It has a bunch of literature right below it on why we were in Afghanistan in early October and what these guys and the CIA assets had to do. And they touch upon, again, Flight 93, they touch upon, the Pentagon, and it's a beautiful, beautiful monument. But that just reminded me of there's all these little nooks and crannies in all these locations that you don't actually really know unless you actually go
there.
You got to go.
Yeah.
And I highly recommend that. Go if you can, go to every memorial.
Right.
So for those of you that are throughout the country, if you have the time, if you have the ability to get out to here to Shanksville and to just see what the Park Service was able to do with this location, it's gorgeous.
This place is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And staff it the way they do.
Yeah. And the amount of
impressive.
Of work that the architect of designing this and then being able to think, well, what was the flight path and different color on the ground to represent the flight path and how everything is angled to represent the wings and it's like a lot goes into it that you don't know. So it's just gorgeous.
Yep. Very impressive.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think with that being said, I think we could probably wrap it up.
Yeah. Okay.
This has been again another great interview here. Sir, you've been a pleasure to speak with. I'm sure we could probably keep talking.
Well,
I
appreciate you having me. I really do.
Any last final words you want to say to the people?
Just remember Flight 93. These people were heroes. They were everyday people.
Yeah.
They weren't soldiers. They weren't cops. They were just everyday people going to work, going to vacation, going home. And they made the choice to vote to take that plane down. And that's
democracy.
The mindset.
Yeah, the mindset of democracy and
just
just the American spirit, I'd say.
And that's what stopped it.
Yeah. Yeah, heroes.
So, heroes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure and
thank you.
Honored to be able to have you here with us. So, everyone who's watching, everyone who's listening, thank you again for supporting the Muster Room podcast, allowing us to continuously do these types of shows. And if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be able to do it. So again, like, share, comment, spread the word, share with your friends.
Tell everybody you know.
Yeah. Yep. Our 9/11 series typically seems to be very, very popular. Tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands of views every year.
Great.
Sometimes into the millions, actually, some of these episodes that we've done. So thank you again for being here. Thank you to the National Park Service for allowing us to be here. And we'll see all of you soon.
Yep.
Take care.
Thank you.